Welcome back to my views and news. Another video for you. This news bulletin has new stories from Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Sudan. Firstly, Ethiopia, where security forces opened fire at people in a town in the Amhara region. At least one casualty is being confirmed. Several were injured. Since yesterday, we have been seeing a public protest in this town in the Amhara. It seems that different groups are joining the protests in the Amhara region, not just Fano fighters and Fano supporters. Other groups are joining too in this town. The protest was not about operation against Fano like we saw in some other towns. Protest was about another issue. Then some other groups joined the protest as well. A main road was blocked. Security forces opened fire to open the road. People injured and killed. Secondly, a protest was held, small protest in Gondar yesterday, where for more than 6 months some trainers, Gondar Fano trainers, have been in a prison. Thirdly, viewers, Rapprochement in Tigray. Can we say that relations between Geta Choreda and Tigray People Liberation Front President Debretsion are improving? Second time in 3 days, the two have been seen together reportedly. Thirdly, viewers, Eritrea, where a 1 minute silence was observed to commemorate the sacrifices of Eritrean martyrs. Eritrean president was seen as well laying a wreath of flowers at a cemetery, and Eritreans living abroad are holding rallies on this Martyrs' Day. And lastly, Sudan, viewers, where dead bodies are still rotting on the streets of Al Janina, no intervention. And Darfur governor, instead of taking the responsibility and being the governor, says that he is neutral. He is not backing any party in this conflict. We have a clip for you of Mini Minawi, who is Sudan Liberation Army's head. Now he is governor. By the way, what is the responsibility of a governor? Is he there to be neutral between rapid support forces and Sudanese army while thousands are dying? What is he doing there? What is his job? Who appointed Mini Minawi? Firstly, viewers, first news story is about a protest roadblock in the Amhara region where security forces opened fire. One point, people say, Sajid, all day you speak about clashes between Fano fighters, Ethiopian military, roadblocks, firing by security forces. Why is that international media is not reporting anything? Why is Reuters silent? Why is CNN, BBC? Why are all these news outlets silent? You're making up stories. Well, I am not making up stories. I am reporting less, I think. What is happening is more. If Reuters, Al Jazeera, CNN are not reporting what is happening in Amhara region, I think people should ask questions from those news outlets. I am reporting less, again I'm saying. And what we're seeing in Amhara region is going to have far-reaching implications. I read a video on that yesterday that intervention is needed. Otherwise, we are heading towards a long instability in the Amhara region. Now, around 3 days ago, we heard that some truck drivers had been abducted by unknown armed fighters in North Shore zone of the Oromia region between Gebra Guracha and Ali Dairo. Truck drivers were stopped by members of the armed group. They were abducted. And some sources say that the abductors are members of the Oromo Liberation Army, OLA. The truck drivers were abducted, then family members of the drivers were contacted. The abductors demanded ransom. Millions of birrs were demanded as ransom, and the end truck drivers in most cases were truck drivers, not truck owners. So their families, relatives unable to pay ransom for the release of these truck drivers. Some of these truck drivers are from Emmanuel town. Emmanuel town is in the Amhara region. It is situated between Debre Marcos and Dambicha. Already we have seen unrest in this area because in Dambicha we know that Ethiopian military launched an operation against Fano fighters. There was fighting for several hours. Then locals stood in support of Fano fighters. They blocked Ethiopian army supply routes. Military had to withdraw from Dambicha, and we saw protests in Finote Silam too, in Jega as well. So close to these areas is Emmanuel, where people yesterday blocked a main road. Why? Because truck drivers abducted between Debre Gracha and Elidaro are from this town. People blocked main road. They started protesting, and today security forces opened fire at the protesters. Meanwhile, farmers joined this protest too. We know that farmers are protesting too in the Amhara region. We have seen them protest in Bahirdar. They are protesting against unavailability of fertilizers, that farming season is almost over and they don't have enough fertilizers. Fertilizer price is very high. Fertilizers not available. So they are protesting because this farming season, if it is missed, obviously these farmers won't have something to survive on for the rest of the year. So they are worried, they are protesting, and farmers joined the protest as well in Emmanuel. The farmers surrounded revenue department building in the town in Emmanuel. Security forces opened fire. One death is being confirmed so far. Some say two, most sources confirm one youth was killed. Several were injured in this incident. Now, there is no involvement of any major Fano faction so far in this protest. But you see, even without the involvement of Fano fighters, unrest is boiling in the Amhara region. Unrest due to different reasons. Angry, frustrated farmers, Fano fighters, and those family members, relatives whose loved ones have been abducted in Oromia, North Shore. They are joining. And that is why it is becoming difficult for the government to control this rising anti-government sentiment in the Amhara region. Intervention is needed. Otherwise, almost on daily basis, we are seeing that in one or the other town of the Amhara, people are dying. 1, 2, 3 casualties. In some cases, security officials dying too. Just 2 days ago in Shore Orbit, Ethiopian army soldiers were killed in an ambush by Fano fighters. So, Ethiopian security officials dying, civilians dying, Fano fighters as well. And so far, no announcement of any dialogue. Why? I'll do a video on that. Why is that Ethiopian government is not negotiating with Fano? I have some information which I'll speak on in detail in some next videos. So far, 1 death confirmed in Emmanuel town. Secondly, was yesterday a protest was held by some supporters of Fano fighters in Gondar. More than 6 months ago, some instructors, trainers of Fano faction were arrested. I have been reporting the operation against Fano. It started last year. At the start of last year, it started. And since then, thousands arrested. Some Gondar Fano trainers were arrested too. And they were presented at a court, I think, yesterday in Gondar. People carried out a peaceful protest for the release of these Fano trainers. What is the crime committed by the trainers of Fano fighters? Did they train Fano faction without approval from the government? How serious is this offense? In most cases, Fano fighters are being kept in prisons without legal proceedings starting against them. It is being kept in isolation in prisons. A clip for you from Gondar showing a peaceful protest for the release of Gondar Fano trainers arrested more than 6 months ago.
ለነዚህ ለክፉ ቀን ጀግኖቻችን የወጣው ህዝብ ይሄ አይደለም። ነገር ግን በሌላ ነገር ሴረኞች ዘላለም ያልሆነ ያለ ገበራችን ገበር ያለ ስማችን ስም ለጥፈው በሌላ ነገር የወጣን እንዳንመስል የዘገየ ፍትህ ከተነፈገ ይቆጠራል ሚለው
Thirdly, viewers, rapprochement in Tigray between Tigray interim president and Debretsion Gebremichael, Tigray People Liberation Front chairman. When Getachew came to power in March, I think this year, as interim president of the region, we saw opposition to Getachew's work. Opposition from a faction from TPLF. Several top TPLF members, leaders were part of this disgruntled faction, including Alim Gabre Wahid, Debretsion and Munjarino were mentioned too, that they also were not happy. Why? Because Debretsion wanted himself to be elected, to be nominated as Tigray interim president, but PM Abiy refused to accept him as a Tigray interim president. Then TPLF's central committee voted and Getachew was elected with a lead of just one vote. And since then, we have been seeing that Getachew has been facing challenges from TPLF, especially after TPLF was not restored as a political party by NABE. TPLF is not entitled, it's not eligible to contest an election in Ethiopia. And TPLF, some leaders were accusing Getachew of being in collusion with the federal government. Debretsion met with Abiy and he said that the interim government's duration must not go beyond 1 year. It should be between 6 months and 1 year. Election should be held immediately. And just a few weeks ago, TPLF issued a statement saying that election should be held at the earliest in Tigray. So there were issues between TPLF and Tigray interim president Getachew. Sadkan was on Getachew's side. Sadkan is not in Ethiopia these days. He departed Tigray a few days ago. He's in the US. And after Sadkan's departure from Ethiopia, we have seen 2 occasions when Getachew and Debretsion were seen together. Is it a coincidence? Or after Sadkan's departure from Tigray, rapprochement between TPLF and interim government is being seen? I don't know, but just 2 days ago, we saw that Debretsion and Getachew jointly attended a program held to commemorate the sacrifices of martyrs. And today in Makale, some infrastructure projects were inaugurated. Again, both were seen together as if they are on good terms. It's good to see, by the way, to see the 2 leaders being on the same page. Yes, they should be united because Tigray is faced with lots of challenges. Having said that, if Debretsion can be invited for a program to be a participant, opposition parties should be invited to. Opposition parties, TIP, Salsevogene, Betona. Of course, they have right to be. One of these parties is part of Getacheo's cabinet, two or not. The two should be invited to these programs. But it's good to see Debretsion and Getachew together. People of Tigray have suffered a lot. They cannot afford to have political rivalry among Tigray elite. It would prolong the sacrifices of the people here. So that is why all should focus on revival, rehabilitation, reconstruction. That is what people of Tigray need. Thirdly, viewers, Eritrea, where Martyrs' Day was observed today. 1 minute silence was observed across Eritrea at 1 p.m. local time. Before that, Isaias Afwerki, Eritrean president, was seen laying a wreath of flowers at the Patriots Cemetery in Amhara, Eritrean capital. Several programs have been held in Eritrea in the last 2 days to commemorate the sacrifices of martyrs. Martyrs killed in the fight for independence, martyrs killed in the wars after independence. Eritreans living abroad are also commemorating the sacrifices of martyrs. Walks are being organized, programs are being held in different countries of the world. A clip for you from Stockholm, Sweden, where Martyrs' Day walk was held to commemorate martyrs' sacrifices. Have a look at this clip from Stockholm, Sweden. Asked the viewer, Sudan, what is happening in Sudan? A governor says he is neutral, as if he is not governor, he is an ordinary Sudanese politician not holding any position of power. Mini Minawi is Darfur governor. He led Sudan Liberation Army, also called Sudan Liberation Front. Thousands of fighters were part of Sudan Liberation Army. He is now Darfur governor. In Darfur, we are seeing devastation, destruction, everything being destroyed. Al Janina destroyed, Zalinji is under siege, thousands killed, RSF looting government offices, aid organizations operating. No telecom in some areas, no electricity, no water. People fleeing towards Chad. Even those who are fleeing, they are being fired at. So what is the governor doing? Many Minawi's forces, SLA, soldiers were seen yesterday patrolling the streets of Al-Fashir, North Darfur. And in some areas, there were minor clashes between Rapid Support Force members and Mini Minawi's SLA fighters. Today, Mini Minawi released a video message saying that he is neutral. He is not backing any party. The two parties must not provoke him to be partial in this war. Now, for me, Mini Minawi's statement is ridiculous. He is a governor. What is the responsibility of a governor? Is he a mediator? While thousands have been killed in Darfur, he says he is neutral. So he shouldn't be there then. Basically, it seems he is there to ensure that the areas under the control of his forces, SLA fighters, remain under their control. So he is protecting SLA controlled areas. That is what he is doing. That is why in the north of Al Janina, in southern Al Fashir, SLA troops are patrolling the streets. Why? Because These areas have been the strongholds of SLA fighters reportedly. Why is that there is no SLA in Al Janina, in central Al Janina? When thousands were killed there, where was Mini Minawi's SLA? Neutral. I am unable to understand this approach taken by Mini Minawi while he is a governor. A clip for you of Mini Minawi announcing his neutrality. Maybe he is scared, he does not want to take on rapid support forces. Before that, in Al Janina, from Al Janina, pictures are being shared. Graphic pictures I cannot show you here, showing dead bodies scattered along the streets, along the main roads of Al Janina. No intervention, even no intervention to bury the dead bodies. Looting, destruction ongoing, burning of infrastructure ongoing, and there is no government there. Why? Mini Minawi is neutral. Watch a clip of Mini Minawi, Darfur governor. Thank you for watching.
ونحن في الحقيقة ما زلنا طالما امتثلنا بالحياط سنمضي بالحياط ونطلب من الأطراف النزاع عليهم احترامنا بدون استفزازنا في دخول في المعارك.